Yo, what's up, family? Before we start the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and share to any and everyone that you can. Just reading out there a little bit more. With that being said, let's get right into the video. And tonight, man, we got Celtics versus Pacers in TD Garden, Game 1, ECF, 8 o'clock. And this is my preview. I tried to be as detailed as possible, try to give y'all the experience I think that y'all deserve. I got some topics here. I got some points, some topics here. Got my notes, you know what I'm saying? Because if I don't, I'll be talking for 12 hours. Let's get right into it. So, on offense, the number one thing is Tatum and Brown. They have looked comfortable in this matchup against the Pacers, at least in the regular season. I'm going to talk about those 5 games. The Pacers were one of 2 teams to have a winning record against the Celtics in the regular season. The first one was the Nuggets. We were 0-2 against them. And the Pacers, we were 2-3 against them. And I will talk about these games in some points. I just want you guys to know that somebody was hurt on both teams every game. So it was either Halliburton was out a game or Kristaps was out a game, Tatum was out a game. There were no full teams, which Kristaps isn't here for us. So maybe I should look at just non-Kristaps games. In 4 games, Jason Tatum averaged 32.5 points, 58% from the field goal, 48.6% from 3 on 9 attempts, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. This team they have active defenders, but they do not have strong enough defenders or tall enough defenders to defend Tatum and Brown. So a guy like Aaron Nesmith, who has become a really solid defender, but he is like 95% athleticism and hustle, which is a huge part of defense. A huge part of defense is effort and just wanting to defend somebody and not wanting that person to score on you. But his technique, he does foul a little bit. He is kind of reckless. So as far as Tatum goes, just keep it simple, stupid, bro. Like, I need you to be decisive in your movements, not all the herky-jerky shit, because Aaron Nesmith will get into your body, right? He will get into your dribble. I don't think all the extra dribbling will be of service if Aaron Nesmith is the one guarding you. But and a guy like Andrew Nembhard, he's too small to check Tatum. Siakam, I don't think Siakam's quick enough to check Tatum, even though he is a good defender. Obi Toppin, no. He was 7 of 12 on Aaron Nesmith in those 4 games, 4 of 7 on Siakam, and 4 for 4 on Obi Toppin. Not a Jaylen Brown, who, again, I don't want his play to get swept under the rug at all. He has been amazing in this playoffs. Very efficient. But in these 5 games versus the Pacers, 28 points, 60% from the field, only 32% from 3 on 4 attempts, and 6 rebounds. So he's getting to his spots. And just listen to this stat, right? Out of everybody in the league that has guarded Jaylen Brown this season, he has the most points on Aaron Nesmith out of every defender. Out of every defender this season that has guarded Jaylen Brown, and granted, because he's played 5 games against him, he has the most points on Aaron Nesmith. And to couple that, he's 8 for 12 on Siakam. He's 10 for 10 on Tyrese Halliburton and 6 for 9 on Andrew Nembhard. So yeah, if a guy is shooting 60% in a series against a team, like, he's gonna be efficient against everybody. And I say this all the time. I think Brown is a more deliberate scorer than Tatum. I think Tatum is more talented, but I think Brown is more explosive. He gets to his spots better. He's just a guy that's gonna rise up. He's gonna make the shot or he's gonna miss it. So I don't think the Pacers should put Aaron Nesmith on him, because he's been cooking him. They should not want to switch Halliburton on him. And speaking of Halliburton, there was a game against the Pacers, I think it was in Indiana, where like Jaylen was just bullying him. Like, he was seeking him out. He was telling people, as soon as Halliburton got in front of him, he was telling them to ISO. He was telling them to move. Like, it was crazy. And some more about Halliburton. He is their weakest defender, right? Again, I say they have active defenders. I think TJ McConnell is their best perimeter defender as far as technique and staying on ball and getting steals. But again, he's like 6 foot nothing. So if he's on you, you give the ball up and go post up, right? If you're a Drew Holiday, you're a Derek White, if you're a Tatum Brown, you don't dribble in front of TJ McConnell, right? You give the ball away, go to the block, and receive it there. Who does he start the game off on? Is it Drew Holiday? I suppose it'll be Drew. Does that open up an efficient post series for Drew Holiday? We don't know. If he starts on Derek White has to be aggressive. Trying to find Halliburton and doing it the right way. Don't just hunt, and take the flow out of your offense. The way that you hunt is by running actions for the person that's guarding them. Don't just hand them the ball and do a simple pick and roll, and then if that doesn't work, you just stop your offense. No, just try to keep the flow in your offense while you're doing those things. All right, so the second thing I have is 3-point shots / math. As you probably heard a lot of times before, the Pacers allowed the fewest threes per game in the regular season, 29.3 per game. The Celtics led the NBA with 42.5 threes attempted per game. How will the C's navigate this I think is a huge question. Will the Celtics get good threes, or will they force it? They need to be driving and kicking inside out game, or will they just try to shoot pull-ups and just try to meet a quota for 3-point attempts? And will we see an uptick in mid-ranges? The Pacers are dead last in opponent mid-range percentage. So they allowed their opponents in the regular season to shoot 47% from the mid-range. It seems like Jaylen Brown took advantage of that in those regular season games, shooting 60% from the field, but only 32 from three. So it seems like he was using his strength, his explosiveness, and his skill to get to the mid-range and kill the Pacers right there. And this is where we would miss Kristaps Porzingis in those pick and rolls, those pick and pops, and those switches. He can just get the ball at the free throw line and he can shoot over those guys. But the Celtics are last in shots in the mid-range. So 21% of their shots in the regular season were from the mid-range, which was dead last in the NBA. I believe that the Jays, Derek White, Drew are versatile enough to see that, okay, they're guarding us this way. And quite frankly, they're just talented enough to just hit the mid-range shot. So I think if they see that's what they're giving them and it's open, I don't think Tatum and Brown will have a problem with it. I think Tatum has been a tad inefficient in that area in the last couple of years, but if he was to come out and shoot like 49% from the mid-range this series, it wouldn't surprise me at all. All right, so as far as the 3-point attempts went in the regular season in our 5 meetings against the Pacers, again, there were injuries on both sides, so take that information how you want it. In the first game, the Celtics were 20 for 35. The second game, they were 12 for 41. Third game, they were 16 for 41. The fourth game, they were 17 for 35. And the fifth game, they were 17 for 36. The Pacers did their job. They held the Celtics below their season average in every single game they played them. They averaged 37.6 threes against the Pacers in those 5 games, and again, overall, they averaged 42.5 threes per game. So the Pacers had the Celtics shooting like 5 less threes per game, which again could be 15 points. Like it could be 12 or it could be 9. But something that's interesting is that the Celtics are only attempting 38.5 threes per game in the playoffs. That is kind of on par for what they were averaging against the Pacers in the regular season. So does that go down, or does it stay right there? I think that'll be a huge thing too. And of course, when you're playing the Pacers, you gotta talk about the pace. Now, we're going to be talking about pace on offense and defense for the Celtics because I think it's a huge part of how the Pacers play. Will the Celtics get sucked into playing the Pacers' way? And I think the Celtics might have the advantage here because they can play a multitude of ways. They can play fast. They can slow it down with Tatum and Brown. And again, Porzingis would help with the change of pace. You know what I'm saying? And the Pacers will press you. So that is a thing of pace too, because again, I don't think they have a lot of technically sound defenders, but they have athletes. They will press you, and they were pressing the Knicks after made baskets. They were doing that. So will that speed the Celtics up? Will that be a good thing? Or will they just continue to just play their own style? So I'm interested to see that. And I swear to God, bro, if we get up double digits in the fourth quarter and it's like a comfortable lead to the Celtics, I don't care how much time is on the clock. If it's more than 2 minutes, bro, we cannot walk the ball up because you know they score fast as hell. So if you're walking the ball up with 5 minutes left, up 10, you can't milk the clock against this team unless it's really that time, right? You cannot milk the clock against this team because they play like this and they will score like this. So all that walking the ball up, please don't do that against this team. And something that might help us is the Pacers pressing us, because if in situations where the Celtics usually walk the ball up because they think they have a comfortable lead and just get stagnant, if the Pacers press us, that could speed us up. So that might help us. I don't know. We will see. And last thing about the offense is free throws. The Pacers foul the most in the NBA. They did in the regular season. They do in the playoffs. Tatum, Brown, everybody, be aggressive, man. Be aggressive because they like to run you off the 3-point line. So that means that they're closing out. All closeouts aren't perfect. They might be reckless. So if you take your time, you read the situation right, you move the ball, and you attack off that, you can get some free throws. Plus, if you get to the free throw line, that slows the Pacers down, that makes them play against a set defense on the other end. And I need Jaylen Brown to continue getting better as a free throw shooter. Those missed free throws could turn to transition points, which we will talk about later. This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less best on 2 or more player stats and watch the winners roll in. Download the app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks even offers injury insurance so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, PrizePicks will have your back and not count that as a loss. Personally, I've been using PrizePicks for about 2 years and I've won a pretty penny in that span. I only do NBA and NFL, but you guys are probably more versatile than I am. The app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, so on the defensive side of the ball, the first thing I have is the Pacers 2-point field goals. You miss Kristaps in this aspect because he's your best rim protector. And in the regular season, the Pacers led in 2-point field goals made per game, 33.8, and the second most attempts. Also, they are #1 in mid-range field goal percentage, which is 49%, on the 7th most attempts. This is like the TJ McConnell show. This motherfucker does not stop moving at all. He will probe, he will run around, do that Nash dribble, and then shoot that turnaround fade and jumper. It's just he is a problem, bro. He is a problem. And in the regular season, he was first in drives per 100 possessions. When he gets the ball, you cannot be lax at all. If we're going to allow him to shoot threes, give him a lot of space, that's cool. But for slashers like TJ McConnell who are quick and he can get by you, giving him that space allows him to attack that space. So we just have to be really, really good on the defensive side of the ball this entire series. And to add to the mid-range again, of course, they lead the league in field goal percentage from the mid-range, and the Celtics give up the 5th most mid-range attempts per game. Drop does not seem like it's a likely thing. I don't think that's going to work in this series because the Pacers will take those mid-ranges, and again, their percentages are high in that. Now, does Joe Mazzulla give a fuck? Does he care if they are so good from the mid-range? That is a question that needs to be asked. And just for some more stats, the Pacers lead all remaining teams in the playoffs in field goal attempts from 2, percentage of points from 2, percentage of points from the mid-range, and percentage of points from the paint. They can still shoot the 3. They have Halliburton, they have Ben Shepherd who can shoot it, Aaron Nesmith who can shoot it, Andrew Nembhard who can shoot it, but they are trying to get in that 2-point area, right? That's where they want to attack. And everything they do comes off drives. Whether it's Halliburton, whether it's TJ McConnell, a lot of stuff they do comes off drives. So again, you're going to miss KP there because they are going to take shots at the rim. And I did not think coming into this that this would be a Luke Cornett series because, again, he's a good drop big where he can just drop back and he can try to contest some shots, but he's going to get those rebounds and protect the rim, kind of. But you might need Luke in this series because I think you need Al Horford to be fresh, as we see in the Cavs series. I think he'll be fresh in games 1 and 2. But beyond that, we don't know. Xavier Tillman just lost his father. Praise to him. I think that this is more of a Tillman series, but if he comes back, I think this is a series that he could play in. That is for us to see tonight and the rest of the series. All right, so the next thing I have is defensive coverages / matchups. Again, will the Celtics be comfortable with giving up the mid-range, right? Again, the Pacers will hit these shots all day. Like, how much is Joe Mazzulla willing to give them up? Of course, they're not threes, but the Pacers hit them. So we just have to see. How much switching do we want Al Horford to do? We saw him do an impeccable job on Darius Garland in that game 5, but games 3 and 4 were really shaky. He just looked kind of slow. He didn't look like he had his legs under him on both sides of the court, and it really affected him on the defensive side of the ball. Against Halliburton and TJ McConnell, do we want him switching on those? Like, probably games 1 and 2, yes, but game 3, we might have to show them some different looks and just not let them get comfortable with a single coverage, of course. Like, let's make game-to-game adjustments. Let's make in-game adjustments. If things aren't working to your liking, let's do something about it, right? So let's just, how much do they switch Al Horford? I would like to see that. And then who will be on who? For me, I think this is how things will start off. It will be Derek White on Halliburton, JB/JT on Siakam and Nesmith. Jaylen Brown has had success against Siakam in the playoffs. I think that was 2020. Siakam is a guy that can score inside and out. He's looking to get into that mid-range area. He's a big part of their mid-range game. He can get into that post-up, and I think he was a necessary addition to this team because they were a run-and-gun team, but in the playoffs, you need somebody who can score inside the paint and who can score in that mid-range area. So he's been good for them. And for Tatum, he could just probably be on Aaron Nesmith. And I think in crucial situations, he could play on Halliburton if he wanted to. Drew will be on Andrew Nembhard. I think that's perfect. and Al Horford on Miles Turner. So I did think about if there are games where Al Horford's not switching effectively, do they put him on the pacer that is in the pick and rolls less? So whether that's like Aaron Nesmith, if Ben Shepherd's in the game, like, do we put him on a catch and shoot wing? You know what I'm saying? So he can't be in a lot of pick and rolls. The thing about Aaron Nesmith is he's an explosive driver. He will try to dunk on Al Horford every time if he drives. So I'm not sure if Al can stay with Nesmith off the dribble a lot of times. I believe he can do it occasionally. So we'll see if they go that route as far as helping and stuff like that. And in one of these games in the regular season, we did see some brief Tatum at the 5 minutes. I think this will be perfect. You put like Jrue on Turner and you just put Tatum at the 5 on offense, and we can just roll from there. I don't know how effective those minutes were. I didn't really deep dive into them, but I did see that. So that is something that can happen in this series. And of course, we have to talk about the thing that's in their name, the pace of the Indiana Pacers. They have no problem turning basketball games into track meets. That's just how they play. Pacers will make you move. They're number 1 in assists. They cause multiple closeouts in the same possession, so you have to be locked into your rotations, and your closeouts have to be sharp and crisp. They cannot be lazy because they will drive the ball and they will score. Tyrese Halliburton and TJ McConnell are in the 98th percentile in assist percentage in the NBA. So those are 2 elite playmakers. And of course, they average the most drives per game of any team left in the playoffs, the best field goal percentage on drives. Also, 309 passes per game. I think that was like 14 more passes than the next team. 2.7 average seconds per touch. So when their guys catch the ball, they are making decisions with it. If it's shoot, pass, they're doing something in less than 3 seconds. So maybe denying off ball could have them hold the ball a little bit longer than they usually do. We can see how that turns the Pacers into a different team or not. That might be something that we could try, but they like to move it. If they're touching the ball, they're doing something with it quickly. And then of course, in the pace, there's transition points. The Pacers have the most transition possessions per game out of the teams that's left in the playoffs. 1.3 points per possession in transition. Get the fuck back. Obi Toppin, Tyrese Halliburton, TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith. They have the playmakers to push the pace, and they have the athletic wings and the shooters. So get the fuck back. And they also lead the playoffs in points per game with transition points, 25.3 points per game in transition. Again, just get the fuck back. And the last thing I have is pick and roll defense. The Celtics pick and roll defense has been shaky at best in these playoffs. There are games that loom larger than others, of course. The Tyler Hero game 2, where he probably had the most efficient pick and roll game we've ever seen from Tyler Hero. I think there were multiple games in the Cavs series where we were not as crisp on our communication and our switching and stuff like that. So just some questions about that. Are we switching most things? What are we doing with Al Horford if he's not effective in that game? Are we switching things? Are we just gonna let it ride out? Will they play drop despite them being a great team in the mid-range? Are we gonna play drop for 3 quarters and in the 4th we change it up? I don't know, but I think that's something that needs to be asked. All right, so now for my prediction. I have the C's in 6 at most. Maximum, I think this series goes to 6 games. If I say at most, that means that I think the team, even if it's a slight chance, which I think the Pacers have a slight chance, to get 2 games against the Celtics. So people will say, hey, Nick, how do you think the Pacers can get 2 games? So I am docking the game for a game 2 troll. You're not going to fool me again. Of course, I want to be wrong here. I would like to be wrong. I picked the Celtics in 6. If they can do it in 5 or 4, by all means, please, that'll just help me. But we seen them trolling game 2 in the Cavs series. We see them trolling game 2 in the Heat series. Now, after that, they've won 3 straight both times. So how do I think the Pacers get another game? 1, the Pacers are much more healthier than both of those teams. The Pacers have their best player. The Pacers have majority of their team except for Mathurin. Except for Mathurin, they have everybody else. And they're just a better offensive team than both of those teams probably put together. They just shot almost 70% in a game 7. The highest pressure situation that you can be in the playoffs is a game 7. And they shot the lights out in that game. The pressure did not get to them. So I usually give teams a game for hot shooting or just shooting the lights out and just having a game as to where the Celtics just, they shot a franchise high in 3s percentage. They can do that in multiple games. Now, will the Celtics beat them in those games? I think it's possible. But I'm telling you, if you troll in game 2 and you come out of TD Garden 1-1 and you go to Gainbridge Fieldhouse where they are electric at, you can get one of those performances from them at home, and you could possibly coming back to the Garden tied 2-2, and you better not be down 3-1. You better not be down 3-1. So we gotta take care of home court, get one on the road. Again, there is a formula. Just do it in 5 like you did before. I'm not saying it has to be the same way. Just get it done. Kristaps' absence will be felt. They say that he's out for games, the first 2 games. I don't see him coming back in game 3, but I really hope he comes back at some point and not at the end of the series, because him being thrusted into the finals is something I don't want. That's a place where he's never been. For him to finally get there and not be healthy would suck for him and us. But that is a video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe, and share any and everyone that you can. Just reach out there a little bit more. Please. I know you guys have a lot to say, just like I have a lot to say. Comment down below. Let's talk about it before the game tonight. And let's keep the conversation going. But this is Nick. I'll see you guys next video. Peace.